This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody welcome to the show. Post-debate show. Even though I was kind of like, probably should have done that last night, but we've got some highlights / lowlights we're going to talk about, including an interesting / fun ad from the Biden campaign. We've got fact checkers going off. We've got Kayleigh McEnany getting some bad news. We've got Trump, the Trump campaign erasing Brad Parscale. Brad, who? Coffee Boy? Oh, no, he didn't do anything. He was just Coffee Boy. Then we've also got some more updates in the Breonna Taylor case. So, a lot of stuff here to get to. It's going to be a fun show, so stick around here. We're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. We're doing it live. We're streaming it all live, so we're streaming all over the place. Boy, that sounds bad. But anyway, hello to viewers on Twitch. If you could please share the stream as well there if you can. And yeah, YouTube, same thing. Helps us out greatly. Please share. Please like. Very helpful. Where was the debate stream I did? Yeah, I was going to actually go in and edit that, a little bit of it. I had some weird testing stuff in the beginning, so I was trying to make sure everything worked, because I was doing it through a Zoom meeting. So, am I using Restream? No, I am not, Scott. All right. Anyway, let's get it done. Let's dive into it. Following last night's debate, the Biden campaign released a hilarious ad against Donald Trump. You're going to love this.
President,
You would have been much later, Joe.
Mr. President,
Much later.
Mr. President.
We're talking about 2 million people.
You're not going to be able to.
We will protect
Mr.
people.
President, I'm the moderator of this debate.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen.
Wow. Accurate. So accurate. I'm not really sure what else to say about that. It is basically the perfect encapsulation of what happened last night. Now, look, I covered this live, and I had pretty much the same reaction. I was, as Biden did. I was either laughing or yelling like, that's not true, that's fake, whenever Donald Trump would say something. Because he said a lot of things that were not true at all. All Donald Trump did was go on stage and have a fucking tantrum. Or a tantrum. I know, I know. Ignore my horrible puns, if you would, please. But no, seriously, I can't help myself with the puns. It's a problem. But look, this is exactly what came to mind. Donald Trump is a gigantic, sad baby. Whiny little bitch, as some of you point out. And so, look, I don't know if this was effective for all Trump supporters. I know there are some who are like, no, Donald Trump, strong. He's very strong. But, like, there are some, and I know it's anecdotal, but, look, I went to school with people who support Donald Trump. I know, right? Jeez. But, look, I posted a snarky meme about this on Facebook yesterday about the debate, and she told me, she's like, look, I couldn't even watch it. It was terrible. It was unwatchable. This reminded her of her two daughters, two kids that were fighting. And that's kind of what it was. That's kind of what it was. Especially Donald Trump doing the, whatever he was doing. His quote-unquote debate strategy was just yelling over people and saying incredibly false things. It was amazing. Look, this is not somebody who's presidential. And the hope is that they're, the people that have been asleep for the last 4 years, and I know it's crazy to think about that, but hopefully they wake up. Hopefully they wake up and see that and think, holy shit, that's our president? That's our president. What have we done? What have we allowed to happen? And by the way, one more thing to note on hilarious ads, and that's who made these ads. Now, look, Biden released an ad a couple of weeks ago. It was pretty genius because basically it was just Donald Trump saying that if Biden won, you'd never hear from him again. The ad wrote itself. You couldn't add anything to that because it was fucking perfect. I wonder, because that ad was made by former Bernie staffers, just to show you how, like, hard-hitting the ads from Bernie probably would have been, right? Because it's the same people who worked for Bernie wrote that ad. I wonder if it's the same people who wrote this one and who made this one. If so, give them a raise, at the very least, because it's genius to point out just how bad and how sad and how much of a baby and bitch our president is. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go to some of the falsehoods that were spread and their reaction as well. There we go. Nope, that should hold. Technical difficulties. There we go. A CNN fact checker was not thrilled about President Donald Trump's consistent lies during the first 2020 general election presidential debate. And now you're going to hear about it.
Clearly, this debate was an embarrassment for the United States of America, a clear embarrassment. I want to bring in CNN's fact checker, Daniel Dale, who's been very busy tonight scrutinizing everything we heard from both candidates. Daniel, first, the big picture. How much was fact? How much was false?
Well, it depended, Wolf, on who we were listening to. I think it's important for us as journalists to say when both sides are not alike. And they were not alike tonight. We had an avalanche of lying from President Trump. Biden, conversely, made at least a couple false or misleading claims, but honestly, he was largely accurate. There were times during this debate, Wolf, where President Trump's every line, specifically on mail voting, almost every single thing he said during that concluding section of the debate was inaccurate. And the other thing that stood out to me, Wolf, was that these are largely false claims the president has made before. These weren't one-time slips or gaffes or errors. These have been fact-checked, and he keeps saying them, and they're still wrong.
Avalanche of lies. And he's absolutely right. Just about everything that came out of Donald Trump's mouth, falsehood, fake news, as he'd call it. And so, look, it would take me probably the rest of the show to go and fact check every single thing that he has said. So I just want to focus on some of the egregious stuff. Now, for one, he said he brought down the price of prescription drugs by 80 to 90%. That's not true at all. That's completely false. His executive orders are essentially toothless on prescription drugs. So, I mean, come on, that's one of the easier ones to fact check. And again, egregious because there are people out there who've lost their health insurance, lost their health care, and already before the pandemic, and we're in the middle of one, couldn't even afford their health insurance, their medication beforehand. But this idiot's going out there and he's lying in front of people and being like, "Oh, did you know I cut the price of medication 80 to 90%?" Really? Well, how come vial of insulin is still $600? Shut the fuck up. All right, there's more. So, now, speaking of healthcare, Donald Trump basically tried to tie Biden to Bernie Sanders' healthcare plan. Okay, Medicare for all. Biden, unfortunately, predictably, agreed with Donald Trump's framing as Bernie Sanders being quote-unquote far left and ran away from Medicare for all. In fact, here's what Trump said. He said, "Joe, you agree with Bernie Sanders, who's far left on the manifesto." What is he talking about, manifesto? I mean, he's probably trying to be like, I'm clever, and communist manifesto, because that's the only one people who write manifestos are communists, right? No. I guess maybe it's one of the more famous manifestos, but no, I mean, the whole thing tying Medicare for all to communism is just absolutely ridiculous. But he says, and that gives you socialized medicine. Are you saying you didn't agree? He doesn't agree with Bernie. We kind of had a primary about it where Joe Biden's like, no, I don't agree that we should have universal health care, that we should expand Medicare to everybody. That's his policy position. It is not Medicare for all. It is not actually even universal. And I know I've hit him so many times over that because we literally need Medicare for all. We need a universal healthcare system. That's it. The ACA is what mainly Joe Biden wants to do, right? He wants to, quote unquote, fix the ACA and also do a public option, maybe. And look, again, the ACA is not even near socialized medicine. It's not even near universal health care. It's nowhere near Medicare for all. And look, in fact, in the debate, Biden talked about Medicaid, but hardly even mentioned his health care plan. Now, of course, maybe he could have said more if Donald Trump wasn't, interrupting him with bullshit every 5 seconds, but I don't know. I don't know what he would have done. But Biden's plan, among other things, does offer a public health insurance option, a public option as a choice, increases tax credits for people getting insurance on the Obamacare exchanges. And his website says, we are going to build on the Affordable Care Act and ensure more than an estimated 97% of Americans. It is not universal health care, which is what people to the left of Biden are calling for, like myself. What we need is Medicare for all. And I guess the best hope that we can come up with is, well, okay, Joe Biden gets a public option, which we should have had during the original ACA talks, but we didn't get. Okay, maybe we'll have it now, and then the next president, a progressive, will push for Medicare for all. That's right now the best we can hope for. And I don't even know if we'll be able to get that. But again, this shows Donald Trump, 100% liar. It's not Bernie's plan. Straight up bullshit. Also bullshit is Donald Trump claiming that his health care plan would be better. No, his health care plan, Trump Care, was so bad, even John McCain voted it down. No, but it's going to cover everybody. Where is it? Where is the plan? Where is the plan? You have no health care plan. Okay, anyway. So now there's voting. There's another one. It's probably the most important because, voting is incredibly important. Donald Trump lying about voter fraud. Now, he's been setting this up for quite some time. During the debate, Donald Trump referred to ballots found in a ditch or in a riverbed and said, well, there's your evidence of your fraud. Okay, so let's get into the details about that. All right. Now, officials did say that there were some ballots that were found on the side of the road. Oh my God, evidence of voter fraud? Nope, not really. In fact, there were officials there that said that there was a batch of mail that was found on the side of the road, which included several absentee ballots, though a Postal Service spokesman could not comment on whether those were completed or blank ones being sent to voters. And they started sending up these absentee ballots about September 17th, and they found these on the 21st. And so, who knows, right? As for the claim that 1,000 people were sent 2 ballots. So now, fact check says that's actually true. NBC4 in Washington reported that election officials in Fairfax County, Virginia, believe that up to 1,000 people who requested mail-in ballots may have gotten 2 by accident. Now, Republicans and idiots will point to this as like, aha! Voter fraud! Hold on. Just because you get 2 ballots, 1 by accident, doesn't mean that your vote counts twice. In fact, Fairfax County Registrar Gary Scott said that when every ballot is returned, quote, we make an entry into their voter record that they have returned a ballot. So if something else shows up, i.e. another ballot, we can see that their ballot is already returned, so we don't count it. Literally, it is set up so where you cannot vote twice. Complete lies. As far as evidence of widespread voter fraud, no, there is no evidence. And those are just some of the lies that were spouted by Donald Trump. Again, we had about an hour and a half of basically a festival of verbal diarrhea from the President of the United States. And a lot of us wondered, by the way, why Chris Wallace was not doing fact-checking. Well, to be fair, and it's, I know, weird that I'm fair to Chris Wallace on this, but Trump probably wouldn't have shut up long enough for them to do a fact check and would have argued even more with the moderator. And then we'd also see a fact check on basically everything Donald Trump said, which would have made the debate probably about 3 hours long. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. And you know why? It's because Donald Trump is the human equivalent of a Gish Gallop. And you guys know what that is. Except, of course, with providing, because when you Gish Gallop, you just throw up a bunch of unrelated facts. In this case, unrelated and related lies. And that's what that is. It's no wonder that you have fact checkers out there that are pulling their hairs. They must be trying to find different careers at this point because it's just too much. It's just too much. And so, avalanche of lies, 100%. All right. One more related debate story. And that's the response to Trump's performance by conservatives. Interesting. So let's get to that. Following last night's disastrous debate, Fox host, tongue twister. All right, let's try that again. Following last night's disastrous debate performance, Fox host Stuart Varney had to give a little bit of bad news to Kayleigh McEnany. Let's take a look.
You saw the president right after he walked off the set, I think, last night. I mean, you were there. Does he think, did he tell you right after he walked off the set that he thinks he won the debate? Does he think that?
Yes, he does. He was in very good spirits. He brought the fight that I think the American people wanted to see. The American people wanted to see the president question Joe Biden in a way that the media never does. He gets a pass. You've seen those softball questions. And President Trump took on the role of both the media, what they should be doing, and a candidate sharing his record with the American people.
However, his style, the frequent interruptions, I mean, the insults came from Biden, but the frequent interruptions and the talking over everybody, that was a lot from President Trump. And I think that's what the audience didn't like and will turn off.
The offense style of the president got the former vice president on the record with no answer to, has a single police organization endorsed you? Will you condemn Antifa? Are you going to pack the Supreme Court? Because the president was on offense, the American voter left that debate with a distinct answer and look at this vice presidential candidate or former vice president presidential candidate that they had not had previously.
Kayleigh McEnany is an expert at the dodge. She's just dodging those questions, not really addressing what Stuart Varney, one of the biggest Trump ass kissers that I've ever seen, was pointing out. Like, hey, you know, he was frequently interrupting Joe Biden, and that doesn't look good. I think the audience was kind of turned off by that, and I've got some polling that suggests that. So we'll do that, okay? But yeah, look, you see her. It's like, oh no, it was great. What are you talking about? The debate went really, really well for the president, and the president thought it was great. And he's like, I don't think so. I'm not exactly sure. In fact, he's gonna lay this out, and it's gonna be a bit devastating. Take a look.
Biden won simply because he got through the whole 90 minutes, no gaffe, no senior moments, no lack of focus, and reasonable amount of energy all the way through. Therefore, he survived, he won. What do you say?
Yeah, I think no gaffes, that's a really subjective interpretation. I would consider it a pretty big gaffe when asked about Antifa, an organization that has killed Americans and targeted police officers, and there's no condemnation of that group. I'd consider that a pretty big gaffe along with many others. Look, the media was dying to write the headline this morning, Joe Biden prevails, Joe Biden exceeds expectations. Notably, you don't see those headlines out there. Instead, you're seeing the question, should there even be two other debates? That's a question a loser asks, not someone who thinks they won the debate.
Okay. For one, I love how this is framed, because he can't come out and directly say it, but he's like, oh, well, what's your response to basically saying that Biden won because he wasn't a moron, like Donald Trump? A low bar. Okay, so if not having senior moments or gaffes or lack of focus or anything like that makes it so that you beat Trump, what does that say about Trump? That bad. But look, again, I love how she brings up all this, again, unrelated garbage, okay? Oh, it's a pretty big gaffe when you talk about Antifa, organization that I'm now going to lie about, which is not an organization at all. In fact, even Biden, who's super pro-police, is like, yeah, no, Antifa is not a... It's not even an organization. And by the way, you want to talk about gaffes like that? Okay. Well, what about when Donald Trump refused to, I don't know, denounce white supremacists? Or when he told the Proud Boys and the right-wing militias to, quote, stand down and stand by. Which, by the way, the Proud Boys are like, yes! Oh, well, of course, we'll stand... We're standing by, Mr. President, ready to enact your orders. Stand by for what? Now, he also, by the way, refused to leave office if he loses. Look, the guy's priming people for violence. If anything, that's not a gaffe, right? And honestly, it's not. It's Donald Trump being way too honest and saying, well, yeah, of course. Yeah, stand down, but stand by, just in case they say I lose the election from all these fake votes. Well, you know what's got to happen. Now, and yet, of course, Kayleigh McEnany, she's talking about Antifa, right? Antifa, again, not an organization. There's no Antifa headquarters. There's no leadership structure. There's nothing like that. No, it's just people who are anti-fascist. Now, there was one person who was killed by someone identifying themselves as an anti-fascist. That was in self-defense, so they claim. And then the police murdered him a few days later. They lied about him brandishing a weapon, as opposed to, of course, right-wing groups, who, by the way, have killed more Americans, including police. Those ultra-right-wing sovereign citizens, targeted police, they have killed more people. The right wing has killed more people in this country than Islamic extremists. Get the fuck out of here, Kaylee, with that garbage, that absolute bullshit. Bullshit. Look, as far as the debates. Now, McEnany, she mentioned in a part that I cut out, where the next debate's a town hall. Now, the reason that people were saying there shouldn't be any more debates, and I've only heard a couple of people say that, and that's because of how much of a shit show this one was, and how just off the rails the president of the United States happened to be. And so that's why they're talking about maybe not having another debate. Of course, the next debate, as McEnany pointed out, and again, it's a part of the video that I cut out, where she said, well, the next debate's a town hall, so, well, Donald Trump's going to have to talk to the American people. Oh, goody. Oh, that's going to be great. I'd love to see him yell at regular people the way that he yelled at Joe Biden. Should be great. Should be great. See how far that strategy gets you with the voters. But look, this was bad. When you lose Stuart Varney, when he's asking those types of questions and saying, "Oh yeah, Biden won," or what do you say to Biden winning because he didn't have any of these, because he actually just looked like he was a coherent, cogent person, as opposed to ranting Donnie over there. That's bad when you lose him. Okay. And look, he's not the only one. You got conservatives. Chris Christie. Chris Christie, understand, he was Donald Trump's, he was one of the guys who prepped Donald Trump for this debate. Here's what he said. Quote, "The problems the president had tonight can potentially be fixed." Basically admitting there were problems. That mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. But they can be fixed. They can be fixed. What? Okay, you're going to replace Donald Trump with somebody else? Because that would be one way to fix those mistakes, to prevent that from happening again. But no, other than doing that, this is who Donald Trump is. And, of course, this is why a lot of his supporters love this guy, because he does this. In fact, here's what Rudy Giuliani said on Twitter. He said, "If the crooked press is at all fair, Trump dominated this debate by talking more." I mean, I guess if you look at it that metric, he showed he's a vigorous, tough, and articulate leader who's not going to let the biased moderator push him around. Biased moderator. The thing about that, Chris Wallace, he's like, look, you guys agreed to these rules for the debate, and now you're stomping all over the rules. Again, this is the law and order candidate, right? That didn't seem very orderly in this quote-unquote debate. All right. He also added, he will not let anyone push around the USA. Well, that really depends. And said, "I'd much rather have President Trump fight for me and for the USA than a Biden who looked overwhelmed." Look, I saw throughout that entire debate, either Joe Biden was getting pissed off because, started bringing up his son, and other times Biden was basically doing what I was doing and basically just laughing, because here we have a reality show TV clown clowning it up on stage. And that's really the only way that you can see it. Now, the American people. So how do the American people feel about this? Well, I've got some poll results here from CBS News. Let's see. Let me show you this right here. Who won tonight's debate? 48% Joe Biden, 41% Donald Trump. Unfortunately, that kind of breaks down to how, the American people are going to vote. All right. And so, all right. That's not great, but definitely not a win for Donald Trump. Tone of the debate, 83% negative. Who saw that Who's the 17% that said it was positive? Who are these people? Were you even watching the same debate? Really? All right, more. Tonight's debate made you think better of Joe Biden. Okay. 38% versus 24%. Worse, 32% of Biden. That's interesting. 42% for Trump. No change, 30 and 34. All right. And then one more here. How did the debate make you feel? 69% said they were annoyed. Annoyed. And 31% entertained. I think I belong in that 31% because it was kind of entertaining. 17% informed. What did they talk about? Was there any policy in that? I don't remember seeing really any policy discussion, except for, of course, from Biden when he tried to bring up a tiny bit. Oh, and of course, there was the time where Donald Trump basically refused to acknowledge that climate change exists. So I think overall, it's pretty clear that Trump, like Trump officials, media, and the American people will agree that this debate was an absolute shit show. Oh, there it is. All right. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back. We've got Brad Parscale being erased by the Trump campaign and an update on the Breonna Taylor killing. More details about that. So stay right here. Please like and share the stream, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Wet ass P word.
Silent.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, Waldorf Nation. If Waldorf here with you. All right, so let me read a couple of donos here. Sarge Tech says Donald Trump made a history lesson at the debate. First 90-minute tweet. Yeah, it was a stream of consciousness. Or unconsciousness, I suppose. Goku Just Saying says, Trump on losing Barney. First rule about White Supremacy Fight Club is you do not talk about White Supremacy Fight Club. That's another good point. I have a great audience here. Wet ass P word makes me laugh every time. I know, right? It's the best.
Wet ass P word. There's some whores in this house.
It's Ben Shapee word. A lot of you agree, by the way, that there should have been mute buttons. Interestingly enough, the debate commission is now changing the formats of the debate because Donald Trump. This like reminds me of like when someone in school fucked up so hard that they're like that the teacher's like, all right, we got to change this thing. Obviously, you know this person sucks and has ruined it for everyone else. Who knows? Maybe instead of a mute button, there could be a shock collar. I'd like that. Or like Bernie Sanders would come and hit you upside the head with a chair. I would also appreciate that. All right, Kathy Harvey, thank you for the dono as well. Appreciate that. Is the stream vegan friendly? The stream's friendly to anybody who's not a dick. So yes, should be stream. Vegan friendly. Let's see. Hi from Canada. Yep. Thank you. Glad to have you here from other countries. Let's see. Gish Gallup. Let's see. Urban. Gish Gallup involves spewing so much bullshit in a short span of time that your opponent can't address it, let alone counter all of it. Yeah, again, he is the human. Donald Trump is the human equivalent of a Gish Gallop. I'd like to see Bernie do that. Absolutely. Give Trump a ball gag. He might enjoy that. I'm just saying. All right. Anyway, let's do a couple stories here. Move on. Let's go to Brad Parscale real quick. So this is an interesting story. Apparently, the Trump campaign is trying to erase Brad Parscale. That is, of course, the former campaign manager. So now, this is following his not only arrest, but some investigations into whether or not he was laundering money. So since Tuesday, the Daily Beast's Lachlan Markey writes, the campaign has removed a video of Parscale from the homepage of its Army for Trump election monitoring operations. So this is basically when they said, quote unquote, poll watchers, right? Or people to go and intimidate voters at the polls, which we've already seen happening in Virginia. They would go and they would try to intimidate people into not voting. And so understand what the Army of Trump is. And so understand that in some places, they're breaking election law when they do that. And so that's very important. All right. So now it also deleted the page, a page on the main campaign website featuring a video of Parscale with Laura Trump, the president's daughter-in-law and senior campaign advisor. The video of their discussion billed as a Q&A in the state of the campaign has also been removed from YouTube. The deletions were first flagged on Twitter by Gerald Beer. Parscale, so he is being systematically and quietly removed from Trump world. Why? It's because he's in a lot of trouble, a lot of legal trouble. In fact, Parscale was replaced after some extravagant spending. The reports had come out on the campaign, basically wasting tons, millions of dollars, and a lot of it ending up going into Parscale's pockets for really no noticeable move in the polls, which is really interesting. So now, it also coincided with Parscale getting in trouble with the law, where his wife had called 911 to report that he was threatening himself and had a loaded firearm, and then had also alleged to have physically assaulted her. And so there, of course, goes that famous video where Parscale holding a beer, because, it's America, and getting tackled by police because, again, America. Yeah, sure. Anyway, so now a separate report also claimed that Parscale, and this goes to the money laundering allegations, had stolen up to $40 million from President Trump's campaign and $10 million from the Republican National Committee. And there is a possible investigation into that, although a spokesperson for the Trump campaign denies Parscale facing an internal investigation. You also had alleged money laundering with the Trump campaign to the tune of about $170 million, with about $100 million of that allegedly going to Parscale's companies. So, yeah, he's looking at some serious issues. He's in potential, big trouble, tremendous trouble. And so, what are they doing? Well, bye-bye, they're getting rid of him. Oh, who is that? You're going to hear it. Later on, he's going to be asked about Parscale. I barely even knew him. He must have been like a coffee boy. Really? He ran your campaign in 2016. He's one of the reasons that you were incredibly successful in your election, because you're running against Hillary Clinton as well. So it was kind of easier to make that case. But at the same time, he was a very important part of your campaign. Oh, no, I barely knew him. Never talked to him. Coffee boy. No, look, understand, this is what happens to people around Donald Trump. When they start to get into trouble, when they start to go down as a result of them doing business with Trump. Now, look, Trump attracts a certain kind of person. Understand, right? Now, he calls them the best people. Best at what? Being criminals? Yeah, because it seems like everyone around him is either a sucker or is taking other people for suckers. And we had a lot of that, the latter. And so Parscale made a lot of money off Donald Trump and in apparently, allegedly, some illegal ways. And so he was just like Trump, and now he's being taken out like yesterday's garbage. And this is what happens. And by the way, we've seen this pattern where someone is around Trump and gets built up and built up and built up. And for a while, they're riding high. Again, Parscale, Michael Cohen, who had been Donald Trump's fixer for years, for decades, riding high. And then comes the crash. And the crash is hard. In the case of Cohen, prison time. In the case of a lot of people around Donald Trump, prison time. But what happens to Trump? Nothing. Untouched. And that is the pattern. He never, ever takes responsibility. And then those people that helped him get where he is today, well, they're forgotten. Again, taken out like yesterday's trash. Can't say I feel sorry for them. That's who they are. But if you don't see that pattern, well, you're not looking hard enough. All right. Let's move on here. One last story for y'all. Gives new meaning to Melania's project, the Be Shit campaign. Wow, I haven't heard of that one, but I wouldn't be surprised. All right. The TikTok teens. Yep. All right. There continue to be new developments in the death of Breonna Taylor. Now, following the outrageous grand jury decision not to bring any charges against the officers who killed the 26-year-old woman during this alleged no-knock raid on her apartment, which culminated, of course, in a gunfight between plainclothes officers and Kenneth Walker, a Kentucky judge has just ordered the release of audio recordings from the grand jury hearing itself on the Breonna Taylor case. So now this is interesting. Now, the decision by a Jefferson County Circuit Court judge came after an anonymous member of the grand jury had filed a motion asking that the transcripts and the recordings of the 3-day hearing be released. Now, normally, of course, grand juries are kept secretive, but there was somebody that had been a juror that was so outraged by the result that they had to go public and ask for these recordings, for this information to be out there. So that, again, is super, super interesting about this. Now, according to the grand juror's attorney, Kevin Glaugower, wow, the client, the person is quote-unquote aggrieved that what was presented is not being disclosed publicly. Mainly, I would think because the grand jury is getting a lot of heat for Breonna Taylor not getting any sort of justice at all. But now, Glaugower said, I think the grand jurors were aware there were certain questions that were left unanswered. It's the accountability and the sense of public trust to make sure that everything that can get out of there does, and there was some concern that maybe it wasn't. Okay, so what are they talking about? Well, apparently there was some charges and evidence that might have been missing. See, a grand jury can only see evidence and only get charges that's presented by the Attorney General and to make decisions on the charges. So now the Attorney General, in this case, happens to be a man named Daniel Cameron. Daniel Cameron is a protege of Republican Mitch McConnell. Now, it doesn't matter that Daniel Cameron is black because you can be black and still be taping for the establishment, for white supremacy, and all that stuff. And so I don't know if that's the case, but it sure seems like it in when you look at some of this. Now, he admitted just recently in a sit-down interview with a local news station that he admitted that he didn't bring murder charges to the grand jury. So now, if he doesn't bring the murder charges to the grand jury to deliberate on, then the grand jury obviously cannot, make a decision on whether or not they will indict them on those murder charges. So that, again, that is really, really important. So now, he said that the office found murder charges as not appropriate. Quote, our recommendation was that Officers Jonathan Mattingly and Miles Cosgrove were justified in their acts and their conduct. Those are the two officers that between them had shot Breonna Taylor 6 times. Now, the only person that was punished was Hankinson, who actually arrived late and started shooting into the apartment 10 times. And so that was the only person that was indicted, and that was for wanton discharge of a weapon. And so, and not just into Breonna Taylor's apartment, but damaging possibly another person's apartment as well and putting other people in danger. So that's what the only charge. Now, the only charge that the grand jury, as I said, decided to agree upon is wanton endangerment. For Hankinson, Hankinson, of course, was fired as a result of that. So now, there's a lot of disinformation going around about the case, especially from the right wing. So understand, here are some of the basic facts, okay? Now, the officers were serving a search warrant on Taylor's apartment in the early morning hours of March 13th. It wasn't actually a no-knock raid. Originally, it was, but then at first, it was a no-knock, but then they had changed it to where the officers were encouraged to announce themselves. Now, the officers say, well, yeah, we did, and they didn't do anything. So then we busted in, and we were shot at. But we announced ourselves, so they were shooting at a police officer, which means we were justified in self-defense. That's what they were saying. Now, the reason for that raid was that they were looking for evidence of drug trafficking in her apartment. Now, there was no evidence of that. They didn't find any drugs. They didn't find any of that. Okay? Now, furthermore, that this warrant was based on a sworn affidavit from a detective that alleged that an ex-boyfriend of Taylor's was using her apartment for drug trafficking and was sending packages through the U.S. mail. Now, keep that in mind. There was no evidence of any mail packages being sent full of drugs. The warrant required the police to verify with postal inspectors that the ex-boyfriend was receiving packages, but according to lawyers for Taylor's family, the Louisville postal inspector denied that his office inspected packages sent to Taylor's home as part of that investigation. So there is, of course, one thing that doesn't seem to add up. Furthermore, the LPD tried to pressure the ex-boyfriend, which they had in custody, into implicating her in the scheme after her death, post-mortem. So they shoot her, kill her in this botched raid. They don't find any drugs. They don't find any evidence. And so they go to the ex-boyfriend, who they already had in custody, and say, hey, can you implicate your ex-girlfriend as part of your drug trafficking ring? And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it because it wasn't true. And so understand what they tried to do. They tried to smear her endlessly. Now, that said, the Attorney General did not present the options, despite all the stuff that happened. They didn't present the options for homicide charges at all. That is absolutely outrageous. Outrageous. And as a lot of you point out, and I totally agree with this, even if there was drugs in this house, that doesn't mean that cops should be judge, jury, and executioner. You shouldn't be killed for drugs. In fact, I believe at least in drug decriminalization. Because if there weren't a drug war, this wouldn't have happened. And understand, too, that the allegations that this could be, this entire thing could be a result of, for example, trying to gentrify the neighborhood and to get these people out, to get the minorities and poor black folks out. Well, that's another thing as well. And so, anyway, as far as, again, Breonna Taylor's concerned, she absolutely was a victim. She was caught between plainclothes police officers that were breaking into her apartment in the middle of the morning, causing her boyfriend, who was a legal gun owner, somebody who had no criminal record whatsoever, to fire in self-defense. But there's even questions about whether or not Kenneth Walker even hit one of the officers, Officer Mattingly. They don't even know. But we'll get to that. Breonna Taylor was caught in the middle of this. Now, attorneys for the Taylor family released a statement on Tuesday as a result of this, saying that Daniel Cameron clearly failed to present a comprehensive case that supported justice for Breonna. Quote, that conclusion is supported by the grand juror who came forward to say that the Attorney General misrepresented the grand jury's deliberations. We fully support the call to release the entire proceeding transcript as the only way to know what evidence was presented and how the grand jury instructions led to this outcome. Again, all led by Daniel Cameron. The attorneys also alleged that prosecutors presented scant evidence, if any, that pertained to Taylor's death, and cited at least 11 witnesses who dispute Cameron's claim that the investigation showed the officers knocked on the door and announced themselves before using a battering ram to force the door open. So, that again, you hear that, the cops, they announced themselves. And so, I mean, it's Kenneth Walker's fault that he shot at a cop. But wait, they didn't announce themselves, and you have a lot of witnesses that say they didn't announce themselves, that they didn't hear anything in this apartment complex. Well, then, that means that Kenneth Walker was justified in firing what he says was a warning shot. Not at an officer, but a warning shot at these plainclothes thugs that broke down her door with a battering ram. 11 witnesses. Now, Walker's attorneys say one witness, by the way, and this is the one Republicans, right-wingers always seem to cite, is, there's a witness that says they did identify themselves. Walker says those witnesses, his attorneys, by the way, say that witness changed the story. They told ABC News that a week after the shooting, the individual claimed the officers did not identify themselves as police, and yet 2 months later, he said that they did. Vice News published an alleged recording of the witness, telling an investigator that on March 21st that, quote, nobody identified themselves. ABC News has not independently verified that audio, but it does exist. And so, even so, if you have 10 witnesses that said they didn't identify themselves, and one that says, maybe they did. I mean, they didn't, but then I think maybe they did. Well, then I would tend to believe the other 10 people when they say, no, we didn't hear them identify themselves at all. Now, Jefferson County Circuit Court Judge Ann Bailey Smith ordered that recording from the grand jury hearing be placed into the court record by noon on Wednesday, so today, despite objections from Daniel Cameron, who said he will comply with the order. Oh, well, at least he's not like, for example, Wilbur Ross, who just ignores court orders, and the Trump administration itself, who just ignore court orders at all. The judge's decision, they said, was not based on the grand juror's motion, since they said that Judge Smith ordered the recording as part of the normal trial rules of discovery. And so, look, let's get back to Mattingly, right? Again, right-wingers, like people like Charlie Kirk, are like, I can't believe Kenneth Walker would shoot these officers, therefore making the justification for these officers to return fire, to which, unfortunately, Breonna Taylor was caught in the middle. And so they're saying it's all Kenneth Walker's fault for shooting at cops and then hitting Mattingly in the leg, allegedly. However, you look at this, some of the evidence that may have not admitted to the court, and this is from the ballistics report from the Kentucky State Police. They could not determine that Walker was the one who shot Mattingly. They just didn't know. Quote, a portion of the Kentucky State Police ballistic report obtained by ABC News indicates that one shot fired by Walker was neither identified nor eliminated as having been fired from his weapon due to limited markings of comparative value. Walker claimed that he had fired a warning shot because he initially thought the police were intruders. The civil suit also raises the possibility that Mattingly was wounded by friendly fire from one of the officers. So it could have been one of the officers accidentally shooting Mattingly within the entire, like, clusterfuck which happened at that point. Look, it's amazing. So there obviously needs to be a release of this information and these court records, because something does not add up here. And it all seems to point to Daniel Cameron and his relationship, of course, with the police, his identification as a political conservative, and his apparently refusal to want to really find the facts in the case. So, I don't know. It seems like he's got something to, maybe not to hide, but doesn't really seem to be interested in justice for Breonna Taylor, which is super unfortunate because, look, as a black man, he should probably be aware that Republicans generally don't give a shit about him. White supremacists, they don't give a shit about him. They don't. You think they're not going to come for him after they're done with everybody else? Yeah, exactly. It's a shame. It's a shame. All right. Hey, that's all the time we got today. All the stories we got. Thank you for going on the Nation Meet today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Become a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. We need your help, of course, as always, to support the show. Follow us on Facebook. Help us out. Help us get to 10,000 followers there. Help us become an affiliate on Twitch by going and liking us on Twitch as well. And all of that great stuff, again, helps us out greatly to keep using that word. All right. Anyway, thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, Nation. We'll see you guys later.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat. Please clap.
Why, you're getting nervous, man.
Mike Pounds.
Wet ass P word.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.